I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Well, it looks like you're the one who needs to be taught a lesson, pal. Class is paying 101. Your instructor's Casey Jones.
Look, I don't want to fight you.
Well, tough rocks, pal.
It's a cup of coffee in the big time, yeah. Cup of coffee in the big time.
Hey, what do you say we both be independent together, huh?
I guess one person can make a difference. Enough said.
We have the tools, we have talent. It's Miller time.
Luminous being, Sophie, not this crude matter.
I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow, or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Hey, these aren't my rules. Come to think of it, I don't have any rules.
Well, that's great. Either I have a monster in my kitchen or I'm completely crazy.
I don't think you're crazy.
You know something? Maybe I am insane. Maybe I am insane.
Mm-hmm. Pizza dude's got 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm. The cream will rise to the top. Oh, yeah.
That's the nicest thing a dog can say about anybody.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Enough, I get the point. You know what you need? You need a Brazilian plastic surgeon.
I've got one that can see.
It's showtime.
All right, hello everybody. How's it going out there? Welcome to Comic Book Radio. This is episode 237. I'm your host, Peter Cimetti. Tonight, my guest is Tommy HULS. We're going to be talking about crowdfunding on Zoop. He's got Kingsville, which is his series, his comic series, currently crowdfunding on Zoop. Z-O-O-P, like zoo with a P, not soup with a Z. Capiche? All right. So tonight, I'm really curious to see what his experience has been on this crowdfunder, because I've never used this crowdfunding platform, Zoop. I've used Kickstarter in the past, many years ago, and I'm currently on Indiegogo. I've used Fund My Comic, and largely we sell through alternativecomics.com. So I'm sure many of you guys are probably curious about this platform as well. I've heard about them over the years. I'll put my own opinions and biases aside tonight, because they're kind of conjecture anyway. And let's get the inside scoop from Tommy on not just this crowdfunding platform, but also his own series. Very curious to talk to him tonight about that. He's been on the show before. I've been on his show as well, and he's always a great guest, and he's always a great host. So please give him your undivided attention tonight. Now, before I bring him on, Alternoween is currently going on. We've got those bundles, those age-appropriate bundles on the site. You can go to alternativecomics.com/pre-order to pick yours up. They're very close to being sold out, probably within the next 2 weeks or so. I wouldn't wait longer than that. They might even be sold out before that point in time, because a couple of them have less than 10 to go, and we're selling through a couple each and every day. Other than that, we got Blood Moon at 88% funded. Thank you guys so much. We're very, very close, about $1,600 away from funding that. And then we're $58 away from $39K on the King Cryptid campaign for issues 5 to 9. So I'm currently lettering those, and those are going to go to print very soon, and then they'll come here, and then they'll go to you. So become a backer today. Make sure you get some of those extra goodies, those bonuses, on both campaigns. Both campaigns have something fun there for you. Now let me say hello to those of you in the chat. We got Alpha Red here. What's up, Alpha Red? He says, don't tell me I have to make another campaign. Well, I guess, learn about Zoop tonight and see if it's for you. We got Creators Outlet here too. What's up, Creators Outlet? It says hello to Tommy. It says to smash that like button and ring that bell. Thank you, Creators Outlet. Appreciate that. Spicer McLeroy says Alterna forever. Have a great show tonight. And says go get some Blood Moon. You won't regret it. Well, thank you, Spicer. Thank you for the vote of confidence. Appreciate that. Chris Six Strings here says 2 of the best in the comic book biz. I don't think I have 2 other guests on tonight. No offense, Tommy. Thank you, though, Chris Six. Appreciate that. Cole King says, hey, everybody. Great to see you. Great to see you too, Cole King. What's up, Comics for Life? How's it going? We got Cole here as well saying, excited to learn more about Zoop. I know of it, but have no experience with it. All right, yeah. So we'll be having a good time, I think, with Tommy tonight with some questions and learning a bit about his series and about this crowdfunding platform, or at the very least his experiences on it. So without further ado, let's bring him on, the man of the hour. Give a big round of applause in your living room or wherever you are. A nice welcome for Mr. Tommy HULS. What's up, Tommy?
What's up, Peter? How are you, man? Thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you for being here, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I always love coming on. Obviously, I watch your podcast quite often, so I'm a fan, man. I think I own just about everything.
Chat every now and then. Sure. Yeah. You got a bunch of Alterna. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious as to what your experiences have been, not just on this particular platform, but also others. I know you've used others before, right?
Correct. Yeah, I have. I've used Indie, GoGo, Kickstarter. I've been mostly successful on, and then I thought I'd try Zoop this time. So we could definitely talk about Zoop. I did better on Kickstarter, to be quite honest. But Zoop is awesome, man. I'd love to talk about it. They're a great organization, comic only. So they're all focused on comics, but they've been good, man. It's just it's a new platform, and most of my followers are used to going to Kickstarter. So,
gotcha. Well, now, what was the reasoning for why you decided to go to Zoop?
Well, Jordan Plosky, I've had on my podcast a couple times. He's the co-founder of Zoop, and I like him a lot. He's a great guy. And I like what they stand for, right? It's comics only. And what makes them unique from other crowdfunding is they do it all. It's a one-stop shop for a creator. So they could print your books for you. They have a printer that they use that gets really good pricing. They could do hardcovers. They could do it all. They do all of your fulfillment for you. Even if you have goodies and rewards, they'll pack all of that and send it off. So really, as a creator, either you send them your finished comic or you send them your files, and they take care of everything after that. They even do the marketing. So if you follow Zoop on any platform, you're going to see they're constantly pushing any of the titles that they have on their site. And I don't believe there's another crowdfunding site that does all of that for you. So that's really what separates them. So when you go to their site, you'll see a lot of independent creators who have been creating for a very, very long time. They're averaging 300 or 400 or 500 backers. And you would know, Peter, because you get quite a few backers for your campaigns. To fulfill all that is not easy, man. If you're doing it yourself, you got to get family and friends, and it's a pain, man. So Zoop steps in and they handle all that for you. So it's a little more expensive, but also they're doing all the labor, the shipping, everything for you.
Is it an upfront charge, or is it on the back end?
It's on the back end. It's a percent of your total, right? So if you're paying 2-3% on most crowdfunding sites, they're going to be 4, 5, 6% depending on how much you want them to do for you. And they'll negotiate with you, and they'll work with you on what your true needs are, and then they'll let you know what that percent will be to carry out those needs.
Okay, so I just want to make it clear too, because for me it's an extremely confusing sounding thing, because I'm all about like quality control when it comes to shipping my stuff out. I like to select what kind of boxes I'm going to use. I like this, all that stuff. As far as it goes with them, now this is your first one. You haven't fulfilled yet, so you can't really attest to that part of it.
Correct.
But on the shipping side of things, now when customers pay shipping, I'm guessing the shipping doesn't go to you and your funds, it goes towards Zoop?
Correct. Yeah. So that will go toward your total, right? So they're buying your product off of Zoop. They're paying for the shipping through Zoop. All of that becomes your total, and then they take a % of that total at the end of the day once fulfillment's done. All that good stuff. So again, like if there's a certain box you want to use, and they'll produce that box for you. They're like very flexible, so they could. I mean, I've interviewed lots of creators that have been on Zoop because I've met the co-owner. A lot of times when they have new campaigns, they'll send their creators over to me and I'll interview them on my podcast. And all of them, I've never met anybody that's been unhappy with it yet. Again, I probably haven't had that person come back again to complain about Zoop, but everyone seems to be really happy with the fulfillment and how everything's been handled. And like I said, at the end of the day, they're going to take your direction. So if there's something special you want done, they'll carry it out according to whatever your needs are.
Wow, very nice. It kind of almost sounds too good to be true in some ways.
Again, we'll find out, right? We'll find out for sure.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll find out. Hopefully I have a successful campaign and I could come back on and tell you exactly what happened.
Oh yeah, totally. Fingers crossed for you. Now,
thank you.
So you're in the funding part of this campaign. Now, when you were setting it up, what were some of the differences that you found between that, and since you used both Kickstarter and Indiegogo, what were some of the differences between those, and what do you so far prefer?
Well, what was great about them is they send you like a 2-page PDF form, and you fill out that form. And once you fill out that form, you tell them your background, your story, you give them images, and then they actually build everything for you on their site. So it's unlike Kickstarter where you're kind of building a website for your crowdfunding. They actually build it for you, and they just get information. You can talk to them over the phone, like whatever you're most comfortable with, and they'll build it according to the information that you provide. So there's no building here other than filling out that form, which was really simple. Kickstarter takes me, at least, I mean, you're more of an expert and a pro when it comes to Indiegogo because you've been doing it for so many years, Peter. But for me, man, that's a lot of labor, man, putting the crowdfunding site together. And then obviously the fulfillment, man, that's not fun at all, man. All my kids are older, man. So to get them to do anything that I need them to do is tough, They're all over 18, man. They're like, dude, I'm an adult. I got my own stuff to do. So...
Yeah, I wish Indiegogo, because that's what I primarily use. I wish they'd have an ability that you could like duplicate a campaign, because a lot of the time we'll have, especially on the comic campaigns in the past, they'd be very similar with what's being offered on add-ons, in that part of it. And to go in there and you have like 100 add-ons and go, okay, well, here we gotta list them again. So it's like you're building like a storefront every time when I'm putting these up. So on that side of it, it's like it's less than fun. It's very monotonous. But
for sure,
I do like, in comparison from my experiences with Kickstarter, and all transparency, my experiences were like years ago, maybe 2016 or so, with Kickstarter and then beyond. But I like Indiegogo better with that. The ideal scenario for us is probably our website, which a lot of people that purchase from us, they do go there over the Indiegogo. Do you have a site that you sell on too?
I do. I have worldatwarcomics.com, so you could purchase issues 1 and 2 through there. And I do sell some of them through my website. I have a TikTok shop. That's probably where I sell most of my comics, is on the TikTok shop, which is the easiest thing I've ever done, to be quite honest. It's very easy to set up. And what's awesome is when you create a post, you could actually connect your storefront to the post. So if you're talking about your issue 1, all they got to do is go to the description at the bottom and click it, and they go right to your storefront in TikTok, and there it is. They can order it right away. So TikTok has done a really good job. If you're not, like, if your listeners aren't aware of TikTok, in China, TikTok functions like Amazon. It's huge in China. So you buy your groceries through TikTok, you buy your clothing through TikTok. So they've really mastered the platform to make it as simple as possible to not only share and to create, communities, but also to compete with Amazon. So they've brought a lot of that technology to the US, and even though it's utilized differently here, they make selling products on TikTok extremely easier, much easier than Meta does on both Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, I'm not on Facebook anymore because it was a big old pain. Instagram is sort of the same. Instagram was really weird for me. I had an account. I had like 17,000 followers. Used to get like 300 to 400 likes on a post. And then I noticed eventually over time it got crushed. And I was getting like 20 likes. And I'm like, man, what's going on here? And so then I ended my account. I restarted it, made a new one. And I don't know, I got 600 or 700 people that are following now there. But I get like 20 to 30. So before I was on the old account, 17,000 followers. And now I'm getting more interaction than I was on the... I don't know what's going on with these sites. TikTok, I'm really leery though to get into that. I'm just feeling weird about adding more social media into my life. I want to get rid of all of it.
Yeah, I agree with you. But with the podcast, I'm obviously I love comic books, so I collect a lot of comic books. But I'm also a big action figure collector, and there's some amazing communities that have been built around action figures. So TikTok is kind of my place where I go and I get to mingle and do lives with a bunch of other folks that collect figures. And then Instagram is more of just posting, what's happening within Kingsville or World at War Comics, or letting people know that a new interview just dropped on YouTube or something like that. The interaction, it kind of comes and goes. Like you said, Peter, I think Meta is constantly messing with the algorithm. Obviously, they really want you to pay for that check mark. So if you don't have the check mark, it's going to be harder to get views. Like they play games, right, to make you pay for stuff. So it's tough, man. I'm not sure what the answer is. X, the same. Like, there's no safe space anymore, man. X wants you to buy a check. It's craziness, man. Yeah. That's how it happens, man. Everybody's trying to make a buck off of you to use their platform, I guess.
Yeah, it's crazy. Even this site, YouTube, where I'm currently on, I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I think I got it figured out, and then the next month I'm like, I guess not.
Yeah, I watch you quite often, and I know that you've gone through a couple things where, you're making money, and then all of a sudden you're not making money, and then you're making money, and you're like, I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on. I don't know what I did wrong, and it's crazy, man.
It's a weird. Yeah, like if I really depended on like YouTube income, it would be a very demoralizing experience. It's demoralizing a little bit, but it would be far more devastating if I was really depending on it, because they're all over the place with that. It's like, they can't make their minds up about whether or not to leave me monetized, demonetize me, not monetize me again. Maybe the fourth time is the charm.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. We'll see. Late November is when I get to reapply again. We'll see what happens then. Spicer says, where have you seen the biggest return on investment when using all these platforms? Any advice for anyone creating their own ads or content to promote their book?
Like I said, my most successful storefront is TikTok. I'm pretty consistent when it comes to TikTok. It's been a great platform for me from a sales standpoint. I know other creators. I don't know if you've ever heard of Ace Blade. Danny Quick, he has a comic book called Ace Blade. That guy is like the king of TikTok. Of course, he has like 120,000 followers, so that helps as well. But, he's on issue 8. He does extremely well on his storefront. I think that's all he does is TikTok. There's Bloodline. I think it's the other one. I think he sold almost 3,000 issues of his 1 and 2 through TikTok. TikTok's a great spot, man, to sell, because their storefront, it takes 10 minutes to put it up. You can connect it to your post and it's ready to go. The ones that I've had the hardest time, to be honest, like I went through the process to get set up through Instagram and Facebook, and it's like creating an LLC, man. They want all kinds of information, and I don't want to give all this information to you, man. TikTok makes it so easy. So I just kind of backed off after a while. I'm just like, and then they said, well, you need to start another account because the way you started your other account. And I'm like, I'm going to lose all my followers and everything I've been building for the last 4 years. No, I'm good. So, eBay is okay sometimes. But again, it's just so crowded and oversaturated with comics that you get kind of lost as an indie, unless you've been around for a very long time and you've been able to build up a pretty good platform. So for me, it's TikTok for sure. My website does okay, but I just don't get enough traffic on there because I got one title, right? And I got 2 issues. One day I'll be Alterna and I'll have 15 years worth of titles and all that good stuff. I ain't there yet, man.
Well, I only have
I always purchase through yours. I always purchase through. If it's not Indiegogo, I go right to your site on back issues, and you make it really easy. It's super easy to use your site.
I appreciate you going direct with us, but there's only one thing I have to say to you in regards to how you want to build up and you want to, be Alterna one day.
Don't you say that. Don't you ever say that. Stay here. Stay as long as you can. For the love of God, cherish it.
There you go.
It's almost like you knew I was going to say that, Peter. That's awesome, man. I love it.
Because and why I say that is because what you're doing and you're building up. Like I wish if I could have gone back in time, knowing what I know now, though, of course, which means obviously all of this means nothing unless I experienced it the first time. But if I could go back, knowing what I know now, I would stick to focusing on my art, my writing, my own comics, all of that stuff, and building that up. And that's why I say, I hope if you've got like 100 of your own issues, amazing, incredible. But don't do the thing of looking to go publish other people. Because I think you as a creator, focus on being a creator. I put creating to the sideline for years and years and years to help others create. And, no necessary big regrets about it, but like some small regrets, because I definitely wish I could have just focused more on building up myself and what I wanted to do. But again, I can't regret it too much because I wouldn't be where I am right now if I didn't take that path. Who knows where I'd be right now. But I would definitely say, if you're a creator, you want to get a lot of comics out there, focus on doing exactly that for yourself.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. Yeah, I've had opportunities to help other people publish, and I've stayed away from it. One, this is not my full-time job, right? YouTube and my interviews is a hobby. I love doing it. I just love comic books. I love talking to other creators. I feel like it's making me a better creator myself by talking to so many different people. So that's become more of a focus, to be quite honest. And then I love the creating side, but it's a little bit slower. I'm doing maybe 2 issues a year. But again, it's got to be around my work schedule, and I work 50 hours a week. So, and that's a 30-year career. So I'm not going to just throw that away out of the hopes that one day I'll be Alterna. That doesn't happen overnight, right?
Yeah. Keep doing what you're doing,
Yeah, just slow and steady, man. Slow and steady. I'm good with that.
And before you know it, you look back and you're like, wow, I accomplished a lot, So there's always that. And so now let's dive a bit into your comics career, more or less. Okay. In terms of how you got started with creating, why you wanted to create the comic that you're currently creating, all that stuff.
Okay. Well, I mean, like most people probably listening, I've been a comic book fan from 8 or 9 years old. G.I. Joe, Nam were my 2 first comic books I ever picked up. My parents come from the military, my grandparents, and I was a big G.I. Joe fan growing up, so I had to get G.I. Joe. I was watching the cartoon and someone said, they make comic books out of it. And I'm like, what? And so I rode a bike to a comic book store, got picked up Nam, if you remember that title, through Marvel, and then G.I. Joe. I got a little bit in trouble for buying Nam. It was a little bit more mature for a 9-year-old than I was expecting. A little bit, but I loved it, man. I just hid it from my parents, man. I just hid it from my parents. But G.I. Joe was perfect for me. Larry Hama has a big place in my heart because of the stories that he's told for so many years. But that's kind of how it started. And then you sit on your ground on your stomach with a pad of paper. You open up Spider-Man and you try and draw and create your own stories and stuff like that. And of course, all the characters that you create are really just knockoffs of everything that you just read. But it was fun, right? That's how you learn. And then you get married, you have kids, and then all of a sudden you sell all your comic books and baseball cards to pay rent. I went through that. And then you get older and all your kids are out of the house. And now you got a little bit of extra money to spend on action figures and comics. So then you go back and buy everything that you sold. And so I've already gone through that. And then, I've been sitting on this story for a long time. And during the pandemic, I was driving my wife nuts. And she goes, why don't you go write your comic book you're always talking about doing? And I did. And that's really when I started my YouTube channel, because I wanted to, learn. And I thought, well, the best way to do is to start inviting people that are already successful doing it and really find out how they got into it. And I mean, you were one of my first guests on Peter. There's
no way, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you're probably in maybe the first 20 guests, you know.
Wow.
And I was buying Alterna. I'm like, maybe I could get this guy on and maybe he'll tell me what I need to do. And it was awesome, man. You know, you start getting all these different guests on, and I've enjoyed it, man. I've learned so much. I got a lot more to learn. You know, I'm hoping that if you read issue 1, you read issue 3, you see some growth there. And I would love to go back one day and kind of redo it all and put it in a graphic or a trade back or something like that, and even make it better, right? So this is what it's all about, man. It's a learning process. I'm enjoying it. And I was able to take that story, scratch that itch, and put it on paper. And, you know, if nothing ever happens again, I could say, hey, I created a comic book and it was fun, man. I enjoyed it. It's all good.
Yeah, there you go. Now, why World at War Comics? It's such an ominous name.
It is. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of people that I've tried to invite on my podcast, and they're like, you sound like some kind of right-wing militia guy, man. I'm not sure I want to go on your podcast. I'm like,
nowadays it's like you pick either extreme and you go for it and say that's what it. You know, I think World War III trends every 4 days on Twitter.
It does, yeah.
I'm like, again, World War III for the 400th time. Okay.
I'm hoping that it sells more comics for me, man, but it hasn't happened yet. But, World at War Comics came out of my comic book Kingsville because it's an island nation. They find this mineral. They don't know what to do with it. There's this nonprofit organization in the main continent. They have a lot of money. They're getting all these nation partners to be part of this Alliance for Global Safety, it's called. And then they get their hands on this mineral, and they have the resources to kind of play with it and figure out that, oh, wow, there's actually these elements within this mineral that could do things, right? And they start playing with it, and they find, wow, if we inject this in people and we do it the right way, we might be able to create like some people with some special abilities. And once they start to create them, they're like, you know what we could do? We could take these people with special abilities and promise nations that if they join us, we'll put one of these people in their nation to help them with crime or whatever. And they start to build this like group of superhumans. What could go wrong, right? And so at the beginning, everything's really copacetic, everything's good, they're doing the right thing. But as you gain power, you know, not that many people can handle power, and they have all these superhumans. Who's going to stop them? And they just get more and more powerful. And now Kingsville is like, hey, man, we're out, man. We're not selling this to you anymore because I'm a little worried about the power that you're gaining. And even internally at AGS, some of the scientists are like, I'm not sure morally we're doing the right thing by injecting this in people and giving these people this power. And so now you're starting to see this world go to war over this mineral. And that's where World at War Comics came from. And then Kingsville is the nation that is mining this mineral. And now they want to back out of this deal with AGS. So that's the story. It's Will was on right here from Comic Creators Outlet, who I was just on his podcast. And he had the perfect definition. He said, this is the teamwork of Harbinger with the blood and guts of the boys all mixed into one. And I think that's a pretty good description of it. It's a more mature title. No sex or anything like kinky or weird like that, but there is a lot of blood and guts and, people losing heads and stuff like that. And that's kind of my thing, man. I enjoy seeing that in comic books. So
is it strong language too?
A little bit, yeah. I had strong language in issue 1, and someone gave me feedback like, hey, it's cool, but maybe just do all the weird symbols when you want to say something. That way it makes it a little bit more approachable for some people. And I'm okay with that too, man. Again, that's not essential to the story. So I kind of backed off with some of the strong language just being spelled out, and I've gone to some of the symbols. So I think I'll do that moving forward.
Yeah, that's... I got all of my strong language in comic writing out of the way on one of my first comics with the chair.
The chair, yeah. No, I read the chair. And I've actually watched the movie too, and yeah, that's a.
I don't need to go down that path anymore in my creating experience.
Been there, done that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like when I see the little symbols. It's so intrinsically comic, and then you let the imagination of the reader come up with their own favorite expletive.
There you go. Yep. No, I agree with that, and I appreciated that feedback. That the great thing is when you put your work out into the ether, the world, you get a lot of feedback, and it's for the most part been very good feedback, and I've been able to implement a lot of it. So it's been great for me.
Nice. Looks like you got a fan here in the chat. Chris 6 says Kingsville is tough. I really like where it's going. Can't wait for issue 3.
Yeah, Chris is awesome, man. We go back and forth on social media quite often, man. It's thank you, Chris. Appreciate you, man.
There you go. And so as far as the overall plot, now you described that, but what about the characters in there? Are we following any main characters in particular?
Yeah, so the two main characters in the comic is Dr. Derrickson. He is the head of the Alliance for Global Safety. He's kind of the mastermind behind this nonprofit that is now placing superhumans in all these nations so he can continue to grow. And he's also using the superhumans for some pretty bad stuff to make sure that no one is speaking against everything that he's doing. So if you talk bad about AGS, you might end up dead or in a dumpster somewhere. And then you have Rodrigo, who is one of the head scientists. There's Marissa and Rodrigo. They're the two head scientists at AGS. They're the ones that are producing the serum to create the superhumans. And Rodrigo is the one that is questioning his moral compass, right? Here I am involved in this. I thought it was for good, but not that I know for sure, but it just doesn't feel right. And the amount of power that Dr. Derrickson is getting is starting to worry me. So it's really between them two. Obviously, you have the superhumans, Collapse and Snapback are my two that were from issue 1, and they kind of go through all of it. But there's there'll be about 12 or 15 of them by the time issue 4 is done, because as they get their hand on this, right, they want to build more of these superhumans, because in order for them to grow, because they've made this promise, they got to have superhumans to place in these nations or they'll lose support. And they want to keep that momentum going. That's why they're about to go to war, because they know there's more of that mineral, and they have a feeling Kingsville's not being 100% truthful.
And how many issues do you have planned in this series?
I have a 4-issue arc, which if it ends there, it'll be a complete story. They'll be opening to do more if there's a desire for more from anybody. But I promised my wife I want 4 issues, and that would complete everything. And I'd be very happy if it ended there. So we're going 4 to start off with. But I got all kinds of stories. There's all kinds of directions that the story could go, and I got ideas for everything if it can go any further.
Very nice. So you got Kingsville issue 3 currently on Zoop.
Yep.
Did you do each issue on a different crowdfunding platform?
I did so at the very beginning, I did Indiegogo kind of as like my second chance. That's the only time I ever used them. Everything else has been through Kickstarter. Okay. I've had 2 successful Kickstarters over there with about 115 backers, I think, on my last one. So I'm taking a big risk by moving, because most of my readers are used to Kickstarter. But I liked what Zoop offered, and so I was going to try it out. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'll go back over to Kickstarter and redo it there. But I personally, from a consumer standpoint, really like what Zoop is doing, and what they're doing for really busy people that have a day job and are trying to create and fulfill their crowdfunding. So I was like, I'll give it a try. And then Jordan Plosky, who's the co-founder, I've had him on my show a few times, and he's been awesome. So,
all right. So you were saying how you kind of just filled out a form and then they put together your campaign. Did I hear you correctly with that?
Correct. Yeah. They give you this like PDF. It's like a 2-page PDF. You kind of write out your story. You kind of give them preview. You send them a lot of pictures. You tell them exactly what you want done, and then they build out everything for you on their site. So there's nothing you have to do on their site.
Oh, that's interesting.
So these are the first, those were examples of some of the pages. I have 3 covers. I'm really excited about my covers because, Dan Zay is my artist. I've worked with him on the last 2 issues. So he does all the interiors, and then he always does my cover A. So on the left right there, you have the cover A. That's Thomas Gunner. He's kind of my, I don't know what you call him, my kind of like a Cable without the same ability as Cable. But he's a sharpshooter. And you can see Kingsville in the background in flames, because in this issue, a lot of things are going to go down. The middle one is Sarah Sorrow, and that is done by Jordan Noir. So I would encourage everyone to go to social media, Instagram, TikTok, X, follow Jordan Noir, incredible artist. Absolutely love what he's doing. He just got signed by Image Comics. He just did a cover for Witchblade 3. He's doing stuff for McFarlane now. I'm not sure which Spawn title. He's not really allowed to talk about it, but later this year he'll have some Spawn covers coming out. But he is an up-and-coming artist out of Canada. He lives right outside of Toronto, and he's become a friend, and he is amazing. So I encourage everybody to check him out. That's the middle cover. And then the cover to the right is Omar Francia. Some people might know him. He's done a lot of different stuff for Dynamite, Marvel, DC. He's worked a little bit on Batman, Spider-Man, a bunch of different publishers. And that is Hannah Hinoan. And in Japanese, Hinoan means bone girl. And in this issue, this will be her first appearance, and you'll understand why she's called Bone Girl. I don't want to give anything away, but this will be her first appearance. But he hand painted that. I mean, that's all watercolor, and he is incredible. Wow. And you should follow him too. He has Ugly Sketches is one of his Instagrams where he does just crazy monsters, and it's incredible what he does. And then he has Omar Francia Art, and that's where you see a lot of the stuff that he does for all the big publishers. And he does a lot of indie covers too. And I upgraded a little bit on a couple of variants this time around because I had a pretty good campaign in issue 2. And so anything after paying my artist, I put it right into covers for issue 3. And I was able to get those 2 gentlemen to do those for me.
So the interior artist, who's that?
Dan Zay. So he does all my interiors. He's done all my interiors for the first 2 issues. We're through 10 pages on issue 3 right now. So he's actively working on all those. And he's awesome, man. He's out of Moscow, Russia. He's 24 years old, just got engaged. Great kid. I think he has a really bright future. But he does it all for me. So he does inking, or he does pencil, inks, and he does colors for me. And then I've taught myself how to do letters. So I think I'm getting better every issue. As you know, that's an art in and of itself. And I'm trying really hard to get good at it. But yeah, it's been fun, man. The whole process has been a learning experience. And at the end of the day, I'm really happy that I got to experience it. And then I have some goodies. I don't know if you know who Wham Stand is, Peter. Moose over at Wham Stand. But he puts these together. Yeah, check them out, man. So here, I have my issue 1 right here. And I have these stands that he created for me, and he creates them for a lot of other creators too. And it's he calls this the Wham Stand, and you just throw your comic right in here. So when I go to Comic Cons, I could fit like 5 in here. He can make them bigger too. Yeah, and then these right here are magnetic. So they come off. This is my emblem for World at War Comics. They're magnetic. You can put it on the refrigerator, or you can just stick it in here. And to be honest, I have one for DC, Top Cow. And so when I do my videos, or I have a creator on that's writing for any of those other publishers, I just take one of these and I throw it right here, and I'm ready to display pretty nicely. And then, like I said, he owns, I think, 5 different 3D printers, so he could do almost anything. And here is one of my rewards here if we hit our goal. It is this is Collapse. One of my characters, and look at that. I mean, it's perforated, all the colors, it's amazing. And he built these little stands to go with it, and it just slides in there and stands up. So all these little standees are cool. He did keychains for me.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I would encourage anybody who's a comic creator. I could definitely make that introduction. He could do anything. It's incredible what this guy could do, and the detail is insane, and he's very reasonable. Very, very reasonable. So, wow. And he's really he's probably supporting 15 different crowdfunding campaigns right now with all the goodies that you would want for rewards. And it makes it a little different, right? It's not just stickers like everybody does or bookmarks. It allows you to do something a little bit unique, which is hard to do, right? Because there's so many campaigns. Yeah. Everyone's kind of already done everything.
Wow, that's awesome. Those look great. Do you know what awesome. What's the social media handle? Is it Wham Stands?
Wham Stand, WHAMSTAND, and his name is Moose. The nicest guy ever. He's been on my podcast, so you could go check out the I can't remember what number it was, 180 something, but he was on, and he kind of walked through his little garage where he does all the magic, and I don't know what else he did. Give me 1 second, Peter. You got to check this out, man. It's just
okay. All right.
Yeah, hold on. This thing is awesome, man.
Let's see here. I'm going to put them on full screen. And thanks, Cole, for putting that link in here. Whamstand.com.
Check this out, man. Got my necklace right here. I could wear to Comic Cons.
Oh, holy smokes, man.
Yeah, a little
Watch
Flavor
out,
Flav
Mr.
action.
T.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little Flavor Flav action. But He does all kinds of really cool stuff, man. But he put this together. I love this thing, man. I take it to Comic-Cons and people just lose their mind over it, man. It's a lot of fun. He has, and you can see his emblem back there, Wham Stand.
That's crazy.
But he is awesome, man. And I'll let you talk to him. I don't want to go over pricing. That's not my business with him. But you could go to his website and you could see a lot of this stuff. But if you're a creator, you have special deals, obviously, due to volume that he'll work out with each individual. But he's awesome. Great guy. Very fast at what he does, too.
Wow. Well, I got to check that out.
Yeah, you should, Pete. You'll love it, man. What I want is a picture, you and me, man, and I want to see you have an Alterna one on, man. And we can just go, yeah, boy.
I think you sport that better than I could.
No, I don't know about that, man. I'm as white as it comes, my friend. But yeah, it was awesome, man. It was fun.
Oh, man. Well, okay. Thank you, Cole, for putting whamstand.com in there. Again, if everybody else wants to check it out, go for it.
Yeah.
Spicer wants me to do King Cryptid Wham stands. I'll have to check it out. I'll check it out.
I'm telling you, I mean, you already done some pretty amazing 3D printed figures, but a colored one like this.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool to have. Yeah, like a stand of it. Yeah, like a mini standee.
Awesome. It's a little mini standee, and you could put King Cryptid in your font and everything right here.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Just stick it right there, and there it is, man.
Is it magnetic? It sounds
no,
like it's
not
magnetic.
This one. No, it's not. It just slides right in there. It's a little groove right there, but because it's 3D printed, it's perfect. Like nothing else is going to fit in here but my standee.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's awesome, man. I try to pump him up every time I'm on someone's podcast because he's just such a good person, and he loves indie comics, and he's makes us look better when we're at Comic-Cons with all of the stuff that he builds for us.
That's cool, man.
Even has spinner racks and everything. It's incredible.
Wow. Jeez. Well, are you considering, now you've done Indiegogo, you've done Kickstarter, now you're on Zoop. Are you considering Fund My Comic for the next one?
You know, I mean, I will tell you, like, bouncing around is not good to do as an independent creator. You should find one you like first and then stick to that one. I like Kickstarter. I have no problem with Kickstarter. I don't have a ton of experience with Indiegogo, but I know you have been extremely successful there. We'll see what happens with Zoop, but if this doesn't work out for me, I'll go back to Kickstarter where I've been successful, and I'll just stick with that. But again, that's no shade on Zoop. I've purchased quite a few things through Zoop. I like them. Jordan is a great guy. But if you go there and you look at the names and then you see me, I definitely stick out like a sore thumb, right? They got Dustin Nguyen, who has worked on Batman and all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? So, and then you got little me in there, and he's doing like 40,000 for his. I'm fighting for 3, baby. I'm fighting for 3, man. So,
man, oh man, what were you doing on Kickstarter? Like, what were you raising on there?
Between 3 and 5.
Okay, wow, yeah.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Is like you gotta go where your audience wants to support. You know, because some
100%.
people have asked us like to maybe consider going to Fund My Comic, but at the same time, it's generally also people who will support us direct on our site, and largely people want to go either Indiegogo with us or they want to go direct to our site. Is there any thought that down the line for you maybe you'd have stuff pre-ordered on your site and kind of turn your site into a bit of a crowdfunding sort of thing?
I think once I have the right amount of following where it makes sense, then yeah, I mean, that's the way to go. We've seen a lot of people be very successful, you know, kind of functioning as a crowdfunding campaign through their own site. That's at the end of the day, right? As it's a hobby, but I also created an LLC. So I've made this like a legit business from a tax purpose because I have a lot of write-offs, right? I got my podcast. This is my background for the podcast. So believe it or not, I could write off a certain percent of everything I purchased for my background. So, anybody that wants to get into this, really do your homework from a tax perspective, because any losses for the first 3 years of any business, you could write off all your losses. And so that's why, like, now's the time to start building your platform, building your consumer base, because once you get to a certain point, you don't have those write-offs. You're hopefully successful at that point. That's what the purpose of those tax write-offs are, is allow that maturity time frame to take place to where you're now a functioning business and you don't need that crutch anymore. And so I'm on the crutch standpoint right now still, which is great, and I'm going to take advantage of that. So you know, obviously I don't make money making comic books. It's passion. I love doing it.
Not many do, my friend.
Not many do, right? But if I could get to a point where I just break even, Peter, I'm happy with that because I just love doing it, right? I have a career. I've been doing the same thing for 30 years. I'll probably die doing that type of a job. I enjoy it that much. So it's not like I'm trying to find an escape from what I'm doing. But I do want an escape just to do something different than what I'm doing, but not because I don't like what I'm doing. And that's where comics come in.
Yeah, well, it seems like you've loved comics your whole life, you know?
100%. Yeah, I got a gap in there where I needed to pay rent and I had little kids, and so I had to sell a lot of stuff, but it's all back. My wife's like, what the hell are you doing?
Is that whole room dedicated?
Yeah, man. I mean, you can't really see in my closet over there, but there's all kinds of boxes in my closet. That's where all my boxes are. But the entire room is all action figures, man, or books, right? I got all my omnibus trades here. So yeah, I got quite a bit, man. I got stuff I still need to hang up too. I'm just running out of room. I got my my Spawn album from the movie, which is signed by Todd. I got to still hang up. And then, you know, I got my PS5 and my TV up here to play games and stuff. So this is my man cave. This is my escape room. And to be honest, the longer you're married, the more your spouse likes you to be in that room, right? So that's why we have such a strong marriage, Pete. You know.
Is this the part where I tell you to, you know, just get comfortable? Talk to me about so what's going on in your personal life with you and your significant other? Everything going okay? Anything you'd like to unburden yourself with?
As long as I'm in this room, it's a perfect marriage, man.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Man, oh man. Well, you know, Tommy, we got I guess this is a question or a comment for you. Let's see.
Okay.
Comics for Life says, with crowdfunding and the number of comics creators out there, do you think the comics seem to mirror the golden age of comics to some extent?
I think on the indie side, we're starting to see a lot of people revert back to bronze, silver, and golden age for sure. There's some really good comics. I'll be honest, like when I read King Cryptid, it takes me back to my childhood. It's a fun read. I love it, right? And so I think you're seeing a lot of that. And I think kind of the more topics that are very hot politically right now, I think people are getting a little bit burnt out on that, and we're seeing a lot of that in the two big publishers, unfortunately, and I think that's turned off some people. You know, for some people, I like some of it still too, but I think people want to escape that, right? It's become so crazy between two sides that I can't say I like red because everyone thinks I'm this supporter. I can't say blue because everybody thinks I'm like, you can't even tell people what you enjoy because
if you tell
sudden,
people you like apples, then they go, why do you hate oranges?
Yeah, exactly. You're like, I don't have to hate something because I like exactly. And that's just how polarized everything has become. So people are looking for escapes, and indie comics has kind of been that place for that escape because the two big publishers, they want to jump into that realm, right? Either side, whatever it is. And that's how they're doing things. So I think there is a desire to go back to some of the things that we grew up with. I think that's why you're seeing collecting amongst old guys like me becoming so popular, because we're all reverting back to things that were escapism at the time. And I think we need that. It's healthy to have escapism. You don't want to be bombarded with all this stuff constantly. It's not healthy. And so I want to go to comics. That's my escapes. For some, it's movies. For some, it's video games. For some, it's sewing, whatever your thing is. If you're going to push everything I already have to hear throughout my day into my hobby, I'm going to lose my heart for that hobby, right? And so I think we're in the golden age, Peter. I don't know what you think, but it's an awesome time right now in indie comics. There is just so much to choose from. It's almost too much, right? Because you can't get to it all because there's 50 different crowdfunding sites that you have to go to find it. But there's a lot of good stuff out there if you look.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And Spicer, thank you so much. This King Cryptid captures the fun I had reading when I was a kid so well. Thank you.
Couldn't agree more.
With Comics for Life's question about the golden age, I think there's some parallels in terms of, at the very least, like character creation. You know, because a lot of the stuff from the Golden Age also didn't really make it past the Golden Age. You know, so
True.
even though it was the Golden Age of comics, it's kind of a misnomer, sort of, because it's not like everything from the Golden Age. If anything, most of from what was made in the Golden Age didn't survive.
Yeah.
It was kind of like rare, you know, and then to survive and make it into the Silver Age, it really had to kind of mutate a bit, had to evolve a bit. But I think we're seeing the Golden Age of maybe independent creation, where before in the Golden Age of mainstream comics, it was mostly just like these bigger companies. They had a much wider distribution. It wasn't really harping on creator ownership, anything like that. You know, so I think we're definitely seeing something that rhymes a bit with the Golden Age of mainstream comics. And whatever the Silver Age of mainstream comics, whatever that might be in the years to come, I don't know. We'll see who keeps on making these things. I've been doing this for 18 years. I've seen a lot of comics kind of come and go. I've seen a lot of people, most people that make comics, I've seen them make one comic and then never make a comic again. You know, so just the fact that, you know, you're on issue 3, you've already boosted into like the top like 30% of people I've seen making comics.
Yeah.
You know, like
I
most people
think that's
don't get past that one book.
Yeah, it's hard, Pete. You know better than any of us, man. It's hard, and the problem that takes place on the indie side is consistency, because there's just so many things that go wrong, right? There's a money issue. Maybe your first campaign didn't do so well, and you're scared to go move on. Like there's all these. I don't want to call them excuses. They're genuine concerns, right? And genuine reasons why people go and do one and then walk out and go, look, this is too much. I get it, man. There's no shade toward that at all. But as a comic book creator, I think people want to see consistency. And they want to know that if I invest myself into this story, there's going to be an end to that story. Because I own a bunch of crowdfunding campaigns where the first issue was pretty good and we never got anything after that. And you're like, man, I probably shouldn't have backed that. You know what I mean? I thought it was going to be more than that. And that's unfortunate, but that's just how it works in indie. That's the risk of buying indie comics, is you're going to get a lot of that, probably more of that than you will a complete storyline.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. You know, and that's part of it too. Unfortunately, it's also, it's not just the consistency of the creator, but it's also the will of the reader, because the reader has to really be made of sterner stuff to survive some of the landscape here in indie comics.
Yeah.
And some people, and I don't begrudge them of this at all. I completely understand. But when some people are like, "That's it, I'm out. I can't do this. This is, you know, between everything, this isn't fun." You know, and that's an unfortunate aspect of that. And that's something I'd like to see a lot of the indie creators out there that want to be offering kind of an alternative to what the mainstream is doing, not just in content, but also in maybe treatment, or also in how the characters and the stories are created and how there's interactions with the readers. I'd also like to see a lot of indie creators kind of just not do, you know, learn the lessons from the mainstream and don't repeat the same things that went wrong in the mainstream. You know, and the same thing goes to, I said something today on Twitter about the fact that I'm seeing like there's people who kind of are in drama, and there's the people who kind of comment on drama, and then there's people who complain about the drama. And
by creating more drama.
By creating more drama, you know, and I kind of get the first 2 tiers of the drama, you know, but if you don't like that stuff, I'm not really a fan of it. I've tried it. It doesn't do well for my soul. It puts me in a weird place.
Agree.
But like, you know, so if you're not a fan of that stuff, just change the channel, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, and focus. If you're a creator, absolutely focus on your creations. Focus on what you want to achieve, what you want to accomplish, what you want to create. Don't just sit there bogged down, you know, oh, why doesn't that person talk about this instead? Or why don't they stop doing that? Or, you know, why don't they mention this book that really needs the attention or something? Instead, if you look at that and go, you know, I wish they would not do that. Well, then instead, take it upon yourself, and just like what you're doing, Tommy, with your own channel, take it upon yourself and say, you know, why don't I talk about that? You know, you might not be some big name or whatever, but I got news for you. At one point in time, those big names or whoever you see out there, wherever they are, they were nobodies.
Yeah.
No one knew who the hell they were, you know? So if you've got something and you're like, you know, this is the way to do it. I would like to see people talk about this. I would like to see people shine a light on that. Whatever it might be, do it.
Yeah.
Bring it up. Talk about it. Because I tell you what, it's a hell of a lot better to do that than it is to complain about whoever's complaining.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more, man.
Yeah. So I'd really
try to stay far away from that.
Get out of that headspace. So many people are in that headspace, and I get it, you know, but like there needs to be a time where you eventually go, I'm complaining about complaining.
Yeah.
Like, don't complain. Just put your energy towards doing what it is you'd like to do. And I think before you know it, you actually achieved way more than you possibly thought you would. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, wow, look, other people are getting inspired by that too. Maybe other people are going to talk about that as well, and they turn away from whatever that is. But there's always going to be some kind of drama. Yeah. There's always going to be something, you know?
Yeah.
And if that's not for you, instead of just kind of harping on it, create what it is you'd like to see out there. You know, I think that's what we're all doing as creators, right? We all go, okay, these are the kinds of stories I wish would be told. You know, and you can sit there all day and wish that someone else would do it, or you can do it yourself and go, I'll give it a shot, you know? And hopefully the more you stick with it, the better you get at it. And then before you know, maybe you're doing this for 10, 15, 20 years. Maybe it's a whole lifetime career. You never know. You got to start.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I saw Todd speak at WonderCon, and you know, he's got this whole like digital side of his figure collecting, and obviously he has the physical, which I collect. And he's gotten a lot of crap from people for the physical side, right? And you know, it's not my thing either. But he gave this story about a young kid in Japan who lives in a 600 square foot home. He doesn't have room for all this, but he collects my figures digitally, right? And he goes, you know, when I go to the grocery store, I have to walk by broccoli every single day, and I absolutely hate it. But he goes, you know what I've never done? I've never asked the manager to come down, and I've never bitched out to the manager, why the hell are you selling broccoli? That's disgusting. He goes, you know what I do? Is I just skip the broccoli, and I go right to celery, because I like celery. And I don't mind buying stuff. And I shared it because it's right, man. Everything that's being created is not for everybody. Find what you love and then give yourself to that, because life is short, man. And, you know, success is a drug. Also, complaining about everything is a drug, too. And you could get addicted to both, and in a negative way, right? I feel like that negative side, because it's so easy to fall into, because it doesn't take a skill set to fall into that. It just takes the wrong kind of mindset. It's really easy to get stuck in that, and it's hard to get yourself out of it sometimes. And I find myself in there once in a while too. So I've tried to learn to, like, if you don't like it, just move on to the next thing. I don't need to tell everybody I hate it. I'm just going to move on to the next thing, and I'm just going to talk about the things that I enjoy, because then I feel happy. And like you said, you brought up a really good point. Your soul. You got to protect your soul, man. And being negative all the time, it really puts a lot of dirt on your soul, man. And it's hard to clean when you get that dirty. And so I'm just trying not to walk in the dirt at all, right? And the dirt is things I don't like. Yeah. And so that way I keep my soul, and I feel better about myself. I enjoy what I'm doing. And then I can walk away from it, and I don't have to be bothered by it all day long because I hate it so much, right? So it's just, I agree
we could turn a negative into a positive, you know?
Yeah,
and so you can still not like the things, and I'm not saying to anybody you should just like everything.
Yeah,
just be
there's a lot of things
everything.
I can't stand. There's a lot of things I can't stand.
That's a far worse path to go down.
Exactly.
But there's a difference between just sitting there and being in a reactionary state than there is saying, okay, here's the thing I don't like. You know, what can I do? What can I do to make something that I do like, that I do enjoy, and maybe others who are tired of this thing too, that don't like that also, because there's a lot of people out there that don't like that thing too. You know, maybe they'll also like the thing I want to make. And imagine if everybody was doing that came along and said, you know, all these things that we don't like, the way the stories are, the characters, the engagement, however, there's so many different things you can pick apart and choose. Instead, go about it and say, let me be creative. Let me put something out there. Let me make it a positive thing instead. And like you said, about, and like what I had said before, it puts you in a better place. It puts you in a better state of mind. It feels better. And I've been down that path every now and then, either getting into it for reasons I thought that were justified, or just kind of like, adding to the jab of like, yeah, look how awful this thing is, and eventually like I hit a point where it felt like something had gone awry in me.
Yeah.
And it really took like a wake up moment for me to just be like, no, this isn't the way. Because if I want to make, and I always want to make a positive change, if I want to do that, I can't start off in a negative spot. I have to treat it and take it from a positive approach, because we're never going to get anything positive out of going about it in a negative way. Even if, we look at like, especially the classic tales of comics, superhero comics, if we start using the same tactics that the villain would use to achieve our goals, before we know it, we just look exactly like the villain.
We're a villain.
Like there's a reason why the heroes have a line they don't cross. They don't do things that way. And it's because you cross those lines, and you start to become what you don't want to be, what you're fighting. So there's a lot of stuff like that as far as how I'm creating, as far as what I'm trying to do, as far as what I want to see out there as well. I want to have it seen first within me, and I want to try to be the change, essentially, I guess. And it's a battle. It's not easy.
It's not easy. I mean, there's a lot of things out there that are happening in comics I do not like, and I don't like the way it's going. But there's a lot of things I do like, and so I just tend to focus on the stuff I like.
Yeah.
Right on, Cole. Appreciate it, Cole.
Yeah. And Brian has a question for you. Says, Tommy, do you have an online store to check out your comics?
I do. worldatwarcomics.com. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Cole. There it is, Brian.
Yeah, these guys are great. Always
they're amazing.
Very helpful with that in the chat. Appreciate it, guys. And
That's
Brian,
awesome.
Thank you so much for your comment here, too. Says, King Cryptid's a near perfect comic. Wow, man. It's an all ages comic that's truly fit for all ages. Jeez. Thank you, Brian. Jeez Louise. Comics for Life has a question, I guess, for both of us. Says, with that said, what do you guys think needs to happen to get a DC or Marvel type company? Alterna Comics is definitely a contender. I don't know about that, Comics for Life. I appreciate the sentiment, but I don't want to be Marvel or DC. I never wanted to be Marvel or DC. If anything, I wanted to be like Image Light. I wanted to be like, you go from Alterna and then maybe you go to Image. I modeled a lot of Alterna after Image. I like the creator-owned mindset, all that kind of stuff. We differ with some things, but it's very much that kind of thing. But it's not set up to be like a corporation, conglomerate kind of, ownership of the characters, a big, huge assortment. But for you, Tommy, what do you think needs to happen to get a DC or Marvel type company? I would kind of, if you allow me, Comics for Life, I would kind of ask this of Tommy. If you ran either company, what would you do different?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, right? You want to keep talent. One of the biggest things that have happened to Marvel and DC is they've lost a lot of talent over the last 10 years. So then you have to ask, okay, why are we losing so much talent, right? They're replacing that talent with people who are not at the same level of the talent that has left, right? So maybe over time they'll get better and the stories will get better. I don't know. But we know for a fact that sales in Marvel and DC are not at where it was 10 years ago. And we know that a lot of the creators that helped get Marvel and DC to where they're at are no longer at Marvel and DC. So what caused a lot of those creators to leave? And a lot of it has to do with IP, right? You have these amazing creators that have come in. They've created this amazing IP. But remember, Marvel is owned by Disney. DC is owned by Warner Brothers. So two things. One, I don't think there will never be another Marvel DC because they're owned by major multi-billion-dollar corporations. And two, because they want to own all of the IP that's been created by the creators that they've hired, you're going to lose a lot of talent as they start to build a bigger audience, because the way you make money in comics, especially when you hit that kind of a level where you're writing for Marvel and DC, is you create something that you own. And so you'll see, one of my favorite writers of comics has always been Jeff Johns. You see what they're doing at Ghost Machine. That's some of the best comic book reading right now in comics. Rook Exodus, if you're not reading that, man, shame on yourself, man. That thing is incredible. Red Coat is a lot of fun. And you got some of the best creators, Brian Hitch, Jason Fabog, Jeff Johns. I mean, you got some amazing talent on that. But they had to leave Marvel and DC so that they could own everything that they're creating. Look at what Rick Remender has done. Rick already said he will never return to Marvel or DC because he has Giant Generator and he's creating IP. He's already had a TV show. So I think that the days of creating another Marvel DC, those are gone. You'll never see that again. I think Marvel and DC will always be around, but you're not gonna get the best talent like you used to, because indie has grown so much that you don't need to go through Marvel to be a great indie creator anymore. And you're seeing that in some of these campaigns. I mean, some of these folks are making $500,000 on their campaign and they have zero experience in Marvel and DC. And I think that's a good thing for comics. So yeah, I just, if you're thinking that there's going to be another Marvel DC, it'll never happen again. I just don't think so. And even if you look at Image, right? Image is still kind of considered, depending on who you talk to, an indie. If you look at the way they're built, right, you have Image Comics where they share all the revenue, a very small percent of the revenue, and that goes into marketing. But all the top, the 7 that are still there that own Image, they all have their own publishing arm out of Image, right? And so out of that, they have all these creators, and then they still own their IP with Image, depending on who you write for. Some have a little bit more ownership, some have less. But I don't think you'll ever see a Marvel and DC again. It's always going to be like Image, Ghost Machine, where a group of people come together and build something together, and then they share the revenue of the IP that they created. And I think that's healthy and it's good for creators. That's what's been missing. And that's why Marvel and DC have lost a lot of talent.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't think we're ever going to see another kind of company build up like Marvel or DC did.
Yeah,
I think because, like you said, it's so predicated on the IP, on the characters, on ownership, on all that kind of stuff, and then it's not really about comics anymore. Like, by and large, like their revenue streams aren't dependent upon the comics. Like they could shut down the comic divisions tomorrow, and almost not really realize it happened. Yeah, like in terms of sales. So it's a strange thing. I think the only and the biggest thing probably that really needs to get a kick in the what in the comic industry by and large is the distribution setup.
Yeah.
Because we have more comics now than ever before.
Yeah.
The golden age that we were kind of talking about, they kicked butt with distribution. Comics were everywhere. That's what allowed for some of the ones that made it through, that we know still today, that are like iconic today. That's what allowed for that to happen. So the way that, if we're going to have things really take off in a certain direction, that distribution needs to really change at some point and in some way. And if it doesn't, then what really needs to happen is this sea change of understanding direct to the reader. Yeah. And the retailer can still fit in with that if they go back to the mindset that they had when the direct market first came about, which was like a secondary market to the newsstand market. So they were like pop culture shops, and you could get back issues and all that other kind of stuff at that comic shop. They can still exist and thrive very much so without having these direct pre-order relationships dependent upon that for comics. Many retailers already, again, their large revenue streams are not coming through comics for the most part.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see a lot of different changes over the next 10 years, especially with the way the landscape of comics takes place. But I don't think we ever see another Marvel or DC style company again.
Yeah, agree. Couldn't agree more.
But great question, though, Comics for Life. Really appreciate it. Comics for Life is always in here, always has great questions.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Let's see. Cole says, just ordered issues 1 and 2 of Kingsville. The premise seems really cool, and I'm excited to check it out.
Thank you, Cole. I'll get those out right away, my friend. I appreciate you. I'll throw in some cool stuff, too.
There you go. Yeah, and back a little bit to the distribution side. It would be kind of cool, too, to see if at one point in time we could get one or maybe more sort of like one-stop retail online shops, you know? Yeah. So you could kind of sell the back issues of Kingsville to them. I could sell some alternate issues to them. Yeah. They can have things set up. And people that maybe missed out on certain things, certain crowdfunders, whatever, could go to the one store, pay like the one shipping fee, have a one-stop shop, and get boom, 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 get a bunch of different comics that they might have missed out on.
Yeah.
You know, if that's a job for me, awesome. I don't know. I don't think so. I got more than enough to do at this point. But somebody else.
You spoke it into being, Pete. You spoke it into being, man.
Earworm for anybody else who's thinking about that. I think it'd be a really big thing for whoever decides to go down that venture. Because that's something I've seen a lot of different readers talk about, where they're like, I wish that, there was a way to just get him in one spot and just, instead of like paying like 30 different creators, 30 different shipping rates and everything else, get it in one store and all at once.
On my website, Peter, I use a third party to make like my t-shirts and my hats and my sweaters, and that site connects to my site. So I create my design for my shirt, and then I link that to my website. So if you go to my website and you order a shirt, you're really not ordering for me. It's create to order, right? So as soon as they buy it, that triggers that third-party company to create that shirt, and they ship it directly, and then I get a % of that sales. You could almost do the same thing from an indie standpoint, where you create a site, but you could connect Alterna, you could connect all these other independents, where they could have one site, like you said, that they go to. They could see all the independent comics and they could order it, but for them, it's easier because all the independents are in one spot, but it connects to all the individual websites of the independent creators. That's really because inventory is so expensive to hold on to. It's going to be really expensive unless you're able to kind of do that. And then somehow you have to figure out the shipping if you're ordering from different places, to where the consumer's paying one fee and somehow you're sharing the responsibility. Like, there's got to be a way to do that, to make it super simple on one site, where you could have 1,000 different independent creators, and now you could be competitive with a lot of the big 2 or big 3 if you count Image.
Someone will figure it out at some point. Someone has to.
I think
so. Thank you so much, though, Tommy, for being on here today. Anybody that missed this earlier, this is on Zoop right now. Kingsville issue number 3. Let's see. I'm going to give it a quick refresh. I don't know if it needs to be refreshed, but I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. So the campaign is currently at 908. 27 backers or supporters is how Zoop calls it. 13 days left, and you can also go to worldatwarcomics.com. Cole's got that description, that link there in the comments, and you can pick up some of those back issues. You've also got the back issues on Zoop too, right?
We do. Like, if you want to get 1 through 3, you can get a pretty good deal of just buying all of them there, and those will go out as soon as I fund.
Fantastic. Spicer says, got issue 1.
You're the man, Spice. Thank you so much.
There you go.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you, Peter, for having me, man. I always enjoy talking to you, man.
Oh, no problem at all, man. Brian says, Tommy, your covers are improving.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, I spent more time and actually more money, too, getting some good cover artists for this one. So I think they're pretty good, man. So hopefully everyone enjoys them.
Well, thanks for taking a little walk through Zoop tonight. And it's an interesting thing to see. At the very least, it's kind of cool to see more avenues for this kind of stuff, and hopefully the campaign does well, and we'll see where you are, and you can come back and let me know how the experience of fulfillment went. I'm really curious as to how that goes.
Will do. I would love to do that.
No problem.
Well, thank you, Peter.
Well, Tom, before you go, where can they find you?
World at War Comics on all platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X. I'm everywhere. Threads. I don't know. All of them, man. They're everywhere. Worldatwarcomics.com. My podcast, World at War Comics, on YouTube. try to keep it as simple as possible. So type in that and you'll be able to find me everywhere.
There you go. All right, everybody, thank you guys so much for being here tonight. Really appreciate you guys in the chat. This was great. And again, go check out Kingsville right now. It's on Zoop, funding issue 3. You can go to worldatwarcomics.com to check out the other issues as well. And if you haven't had a chance yet, go check out Blood Moon. We're currently at 88% funding. We're getting closer and closer to our goal. King Cryptid, number 5 to 9. I'm currently lettering it right now. I'm going to go right back to lettering it after this. And we are $58 away from the 39K mark on there, and we're about 26 backers away from 1,100. Thank you guys so much. And I can't wait to get those next 5. I think the next 5 issues are better than the last 4 were, but that's just me. We'll let the readers decide what they think. Then the next 4 we've got launching towards the end of October. I think those are probably going to be better than the 5 I'm working on. But, you know, that's the goal, right? You want to constantly improve every time.
Awesome. Congrats, Peter. That's
Thank
awesome,
you, man. Yeah, I don't think we set out as creators to go, you know, this issue, I think I'll make it worse than the previous.
Yeah, that's for sure, man.
All right, everybody, thank you guys so much. I'll see you soon. I'll be back here on Saturday night at 9 o'clock. I hope you guys are back here, too. That's 9 o'clock Eastern. Until then, everybody, have a great night and an even better tomorrow. All the best.